Hello and welcome to another episode of NCSY Pulse. We are brought to you by NCSY Alumni, and today we have a very special guest, my very good friend and former coworker, Ellie Weinstein. Ellie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John. It's so fun to have this kind of conversation in such an official way, for so many years of being friends.
It's hilarious because, like, most people, when I have them on the show, it's, you're putting on a show when you're doing the show. And I guess in the beginning, we probably are also putting on a show for the show. But yeah, obviously you live in Las Vegas now, which we want to hear about. But whenever you come back to your hometown of West Hempstead, it's always exciting to see you. And I see your parents around town. And it's fun because they're like super excited to see me and tell me all the things that they think I don't already know about you, to brag about their son. But it's fun. I get to kind of roll with it.
So today we're not talking about Marvel and Star Wars.
Not today. But
we'll
we should have a Marvel and Star Wars podcast. Maybe a spin-off podcast. I think it would be good.
NCSY Heroes.
And so there, right? We could hide it on. So we should just make a podcast to talk about like all the things that you and I want to talk about in real life, and it would be fine.
Just call it NCSY Heroes.
NCSY Heroes. Exactly. There you go. But Ellie, catch us up a little bit. Since your days working at NCSY, you've achieved so much. You've opened up your own practice. You are the Dude Therapist. Tell us what the Dude Therapist is. Tell us what's going on. Catch us up.
Sure. So after working for NCSY, I went up to go to become a therapist. And I'm now a therapist in my own private practice in Nevada, where I live. We could talk about that, which is so random. And New York, where I used to live for many years. And I have a podcast called the Dude Therapist podcast because I'm a dude who's a therapist. And I actually have a book coming out in the next year. We don't know the title yet. We're actually in conversation at the moment this month to finalize a title. But it's going to be on how parents survive as a couple in that parenting stage without wanting to kill each other.
Wow. I cannot wait to read this book. Actually, my wife is in the other room. I feel like I should go tell her we should buy this book. That would probably be helpful 4 kids later,
Yeah, because it's really about the relationship part of being a parent and how much of a struggle is. And you see relationship books don't talk about what it means to be parent, and parenting books don't talk about the relationship of the couple. So it's kind of like that crossover. And it only came out because of the podcast after 4 years of hours and hours and hours and hours of doing it. Something actually came out of it. So good luck with your podcast.
I can relate, It's a grind. People don't realize. I was talking to our mutual good friend, Jackie Simon, host of the Such a Good Call podcast, who we interviewed a couple weeks ago. Shouts to Jackie and to Bracha. And we were talking about how podcasting in many ways is a full-time job. Even though it's not for all of us our full-time job, though maybe we aspire to that. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's work producing and it's work editing and all the boring things that probably don't make for good podcasting right now. But it's a lot of effort that people don't realize go into it. And it's funny because I was telling a friend of mine recently, someone said to me not so long ago, John, anybody can make a podcast. And I said, that's true, but you're forgetting one thing. And he said, what's that? I said, anybody can make a podcast, but I did. And you didn't. So.
I love seeing those statistics. It's only 1% last more than 5 episodes. And I'm like, oh, I've been doing it for so many years. Yay.
I always knew you were one of those 1%ers.
Thank you. If only it was in the way that we all talk about is the money.
Exactly. So Ellie, you mentioned being involved in NCSY, and I do want to get to that in a moment. But how did you get into the parenting and couples therapy and that crossroads that you mentioned? How did you find yourself there?
Well, I love relationships as someone who's married and dated and just always was that guy in my friend group that people talk to about their relationships, whether it's their marriage, whether it's their dating. And I just felt so comfortable in that world. I have no idea what I'm doing in my own marriage, but when it comes to other people's relationship, I felt very passionate, very energized by it. And when it comes to the parenting things, I used to work in a clinic in Queens where I was seeing so many people, which was super unhealthy for the amount of people I was seeing per week as a therapist. And I was working with kids. And every time the kids would come in, the parents would end up overwhelming the session. And I'd end up be working with the parents more than the kids. And I went, why am I working with the kids when the parents are the ones who keep needing it so much on how to deal with their kids better? Because a lot of times the kids were okay and the parents were just not okay. And so it just clicked in my head of comfort. It was just a comfort space that I felt that I can help people, especially the relationship marriage part is something that is just really right up my alley, and things that I love to do. And for any therapist or anyone who's out there looking to do anything, it doesn't have to be the classic route or what you expected yourself to be in. Because I expected I was going to work with teens for the rest of my life because of NCSY.
Right.
And then I just fell into another world of working on other things that made me feel even more comfortable and even more energized. So that's the biggest part of it.
You mentioned you thought you were going to see teens, your whole life, and now you've kind of transitioned to adults and focusing on the problems that real people, so many people have. But at the same time, there's still, I think it's less so now. There's still a stigma in the mental health arena where obviously so many people do need to get the help that they require, but they don't want to be that guy. They don't want to be that couple. They don't want to be that person who quote unquote needs the help. Where do you see yourself and how do you see yourself opening that up for people to say, hey, it's accessible. It's not this kind of scary thing that it used to be.
Yeah, so I literally had a few weeks ago start working with me, and the husband literally said to me, he goes, I'm only here for my wife. I think therapy is a joke and stupid. No offense, but
no offense.
I think that you don't I don't think that therapists really help, but I know my wife really wants me to be here and I love her and I want to make this work. And if it happens to help, I'm all for it. Right? Wow. So it's very wishy-washy. I'm here if it helps, but honestly, it's not going to work. No offense. So I get that a lot from men when the couples work, but right. I do work with a lot of individuals. And the funny thing is that I think COVID, for all the terrible things that we went through, it opened up people's reality to understand that they are not okay. And it kind of really brought out a lot of bad things and struggles that we kind of were able to hide behind the normal life. And when things kind of closed down, shut down, politics, intensities, all that kind of stuff brought out a lot of struggles for a lot of people. And they went, oh, maybe I do need the help. And for me, one of the things that I love having the podcast is I get to talk with a lot of experts and amazing human beings that just help bring these conversations out more. And with the book, the whole idea is that I literally just finished a chapter of me venting of what it's like to be a parent. Literally the whole chapter is me telling
Only
stories.
One chapter venting about being a parent?
I throw the other venting in the other parts. I have to make it sound somewhat educational, and somewhat smart, even though I'm using 3-letter words the entire time and pushing synonyms and ChatGPT to help me write fancier. But in all seriousness, it's about being real and honest. And I remember when I started posting on social media, it was about fatherhood and struggle with fatherhood and having a panic attack as a new dad. And people were like, oh my gosh, I had the same thing, or IVF. And it's like, oh my gosh, we went through infertility. And it's just about being real. And I think the more that anyone does that and the more that people talk about it, there was a big trend going around about 3 years ago. I don't know, COVID kind of threw off my timeline of years where therapists took their hand and showed pictures of their medication. And went, see, I'm a human too. So I posted I have ADHD. I take Vyvanse. Big whoop. Not a big deal. I have Crohn's. I take meds for my Crohn's too. Big whoop. So I think there needs to be a lot more conversations of normalizing it. But I think also the people who are really against therapy don't want help anywhere. They don't. Right. They think they can do. They don't want help to fix their car. They want help to, they don't not go to the doctor because I'll just take some vitamin C and drink some orange juice and get some sleep and I'll be fine. So I think it depends on it's a personality, but I think people are starting to be a lot more open about it.
You're totally right. I think it is opening up. And I think you said it perfectly. It's no different than taking your medication for Crohn's or, taking any sort of daily, whatever it is. It's just part of who we are. It's part of our medical needs. It's part of our emotional needs. It's funny because it's listening to you say all these things. I feel like these are conversations that we had on a very different level years ago when you were working with me at NCSY. I'm seeing sort of the evolution of Ellie Weinstein after all these years. And it's really cool to see now I don't want to say the finished product. Obviously, we're never quite.
I was like,
a
I made
finished
it.
product, but you've evolved. You've kind of grown into it, and it's really cool to see. Going backwards a little bit into the old NCSY days, give us your origin story, your superhero secret origin. How did you get involved? Because I would love to talk a little bit about some of our time together as well.
Oh, such good times. I'd say it really started with my dad. So my dad grew up in Valley Stream, and if he did not go to NCSY when Long Island NCSY was literally a baby, he became religious because of that. Him and my uncle. And because of them, my grandmother got religious. So really it was my dad who started it all. And his passion, the way he talked about NCSY was something that I always loved. The way he said he would go to these conventions, but they used to have all NCSY conventions, not just Yarchikala, but the entire country would meet in one place. Right. And there were like only 200 people, and that's like one regional in West Hempstead. And for him, it was such a life-changing experience. And I said, I want that. And the funny thing is, growing in West Hempstead, it was more of a fun thing to do. Growing up back in Long Island, NCSY, that was what it was. It was like this fun place to go hang out and feel comfortable, be yourself. It was with Rabbi Jesse Horn, who's now a rabbi in Hakotel. Sure. And Hillary Zimmerman, and all these amazing human beings, just to have fun and have a place as a teenager to feel comfortable, like you would go on Sundays and play softball, like you would at an event with your youth department. That was what it was in West Hempstead. Now, over the years, it has changed. I think going back to its roots of Kiruv to public schools and JSU, and I think that's amazing. But for me, growing up, we used to have like 2 or 3 buses from West Hempstead, just go and have a good weekend and have a good time and be Jewish. And to me, that was, I got to tell you, I think we've talked about this many times, but if not, whatever, it's good to say it out loud. That was such an iconic piece for me because I felt so out of the loop. I had ADHD. I was such an energetic, wacky person. I still am. And I was in my boys' choir. I didn't have a lot of connections to people so often because I was doing a lot of different things. And this helped me feel normal, like I could be a part of something. And I felt welcome. I felt me. And that to me changed everything. Because I was already learning, I learned with Nachi Sonnenblick, who was my advisor for so many years. For years we were learning. And I was doing all these things around people, unfortunately, like you, and other amazing people like you, who were just around. You were in West Hempstead all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So we were around good people. So it just rubbed off. In a positive way. Not that I wasn't religious, didn't keep Shabbos or kosher, and now I was learning. I was already in it, and it helped me just solidify and be proud of just a little bit more. And it was really an amazing experience.
It's so interesting to hear your take on it from the beginning. From the other side, it was always fun to kind of watch you come up and watch you grow, like I said before, into yourself. But it's fun to hear some of the names, hearing about Nachi Sonnenblick, who friends of their family, and Hillary Zimmern, who's really been a superstar everywhere, NCSY,
everywhere,
and OHEL, and Yachad now, and you won't find a single person in the world who doesn't just gush and rave and really look up to Hillary Zimmern, and so she is really just one of those legends that it's so nice to hear the name, so nice to hear the reference. It's funny because I was going to ask you who were some of the role models that you looked up to, and doesn't get better than Hillary Zimmern, but who else? Who are some of the legends? Who are some of the other people that you saw around those days?
To me, it was a big one was Rabbi John Green.
Sure.
And don't tell him I said this because, I don't want him to know that I actually love him and appreciate him. No, but his energy was very welcoming and positive. And one of the things I really admire about him being in camp sports for so many years with him was that he stayed true to himself always. And I always admired that. And he just was himself, period.
Right.
Another person is Akiva Naiman.
Yeah.
He was in NorCal, but over the years, he was his creativity and wackiness was something that I always admired, and his vibe, his mindset. I can't explain it. You have to get to know him, his brain. His brain was so amazing. And Hillary was always someone who just was there. Just there for anyone to talk, to listen, even if there was craziness happening around her. She just was like, "Oh, you're sad or you're happy? I want to hear about it." Always. And there's this one weirdo that was really a big part of everything was this guy, John Ackerman. You know, he was the weirdest one. But you taught me so much about being an adult. Like when we were working together, you respected people as an adult. Like the way you dealt with us as adults. Like we were 20 years old, 19, 20, 21 years old. We were working together. You were not. But now you're 21.
Yeah, I go backwards.
You go backwards, like Benjamin Button. Hopefully you stay at a good age. Stay at a good age. Or stay at like 20, 25, 23.
Exactly.
And you really like respected us and gave us responsibility.
Thank you.
Most people wouldn't do that. They wouldn't trust a 20-year-old to go, hey, you're going to work on a budget. You're going to work on planning a Shabbaton, or you're going to work on doing all the rooms, making sure everyone's happy, dealing with parents, and I'm going to deal with bigger things because I have to get funding and other stuff and marketing and big picture stuff. Like the other stuff, like I trust you. Go for it. And it reminds me, another person the last person is Rena Emerson. Right. So when I was younger, I was on the executive board, regional board, whatever they called it. And honestly, I just wanted to be a part of the cool crew and be a part of it. But I was like on the calling squad. That was what I was on. I cold called people. OK, I wanted so badly, like, fine, Ellie, we'll give you something. And she said this line that has still stuck with me till this day. I still embody this. She said, if I give you a task and you say yes, you better do it. If you say no, I respect you because it means that you know that you can't. So don't say yes unless you can do it. But if you're going to say yes and you don't do it, I'm going to get upset.
Right.
That was like, it stuck with me forever. It was really an amazing lesson. That line, I think of myself all the time. I'm like, okay, if I say yes to this, can I actually do this? Because if I do say yes, I need to commit to it. Or not, then I have to say no,
For sure. It's a good lesson. It's good advice. It's funny you talk about those years when I did try to treat you guys like adults. There's actually a funny backstory. I don't know if I ever told you this. There was a period of time when we were both in New York NCSY, and it was a little bit of a tense time. There was a kind of a reorganization going on, and you were an advisor. You were at that point, I think, a part-time paid staff even.
Yeah.
And there was some frustration with some of the full-time staff. And I remember I had a meeting with the regional director at the time. And in a moment of frustration, I said, forget it with the full-time staff. Give me a handful of part-time people. And I bet that for, like a quarter of the budget, probably even less, I will double their results. And I didn't mean it. I think maybe subconsciously I did, but I wasn't like saying, hey, let's do this. And he looked at me and he said, hey, let's do this. And I was like, no. That was one of the crazy things that the inside voice, right, was saying. And then the outside voice accidentally repeated that you're not supposed to say. But what happened was we kind of like ended up talking about this idea that like, okay, let's put our frustrations to the side for a moment. And, we can always deal with those. But what about this idea? You said something interesting. Like, let's talk this out. And so I said, okay, well, I've got Ellie Weinstein and I've got, Daniela Eisenman and Deanie Adler and Ricky Lewis and Zahava Moskowitz and Jared Ehrenreich. And, like all these characters that we were friends with, we were coworkers with, and it was kind of a wacky crew. I think Tess Barbanel was part of it. I think
Sarah Walkenfeld. And it was
Sarah Walkenfeld. Yeah. I mean, it was
Septimus.
it was a great crew. And it's really fun to see kind of how everybody evolved. But we took this team. I called you guys behind your backs. I called you guys my alpha team. And basically, we did exactly what you were saying. We gave you real responsibility. We gave you real budgets. I want to say we gave you real salaries, but, real low salaries probably. But the passion, the excitement, your dedication, the grit, the tenacity, things that I think are missing right now from this. I don't want to sound like old man waving a stick, the meme, old man like screams at clouds. But like, I do think that, more recently, grit and tenacity are qualities that are not as prevalent as they were a few years ago. And what you guys were able to accomplish, we did in fact double the numbers of what most of the full-time staff was producing. And the buy-in that you guys had, the dedication, your NCSYers were so excited to be part of what you were creating, what we were building. And it was so cool to see, you grew into a larger role from that. Daniela and Deanie and Sarah all grew into larger roles, from that experience. And it was really was such a credit to you guys for I think stepping out of your comfort zones and for achieving something that that most regular volunteer advisors, I think, look at as a goal, but don't usually get to. And that was really, really cool and really exciting for me to see.
Thanks. And it was a really fun time because I think when we start trusting people with roles and matching passion and drive with trust, it can really do amazing things. And I think that's something that, for teenagers, the idea was to entrust teens to help them feel that they matter and that they were excited. And one of the reasons why I think the crew that you just mentioned was a lot of us went through NCSY since juniors.
Right.
So we were in there since for 10 years in this environment that it ended up being something that we ended up working for. And it was an unbelievable experience because we were like, oh, we always dreamed of being like this person, or we always wanted to be in the front of the room. Oh, we always wanted to plan stuff. Oh, we always had this idea to do this, and we never thought it could happen. And we were also wacky and insane at the same time, which also helped. So it really was like a perfect storm of getting the right people, I think, and having the right boss who was going to be entrust us. Because not everyone does. Not everyone will be like, yeah, I trust these people. Because you have full-time staff, let's trust these little kids to just take over and do things. And the fun thing was watching, by the way, and I'm not going to say any names, watching the full-time staff and older crew feel threatened.
Yeah, I remember.
Get upset, and then also try to step up their game.
Yep.
Which competition breeds success, and it was really an amazing thing. And at that time, you were kind of obsessed with the, Be Our Guest book and all that kind of fun stuff. So we had a lot of good one-liners of what time is the 3 o'clock parade or 12 o'clock parade, whatever it is. By the way, can I tell that story, by the way?
Yeah, tell it.
Okay, so I remember John walking into the office one day, and he's like, Sarah, what time's the 3 o'clock parade? She's like, 3 o'clock? And then went to Deanie, what time's the 3 o'clock parade? 3 o'clock. And I'm sitting in the same room. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to ask me. I got to think of something different. Everyone else said 3 o'clock. I don't know what the answer is. And they're like, you're like, what time is 3 o'clock? I'm like, 3 o'clock. And they're like, no. And then you gave the whole spiel of Disney and how they make the whole environment be something exciting that by the time you get to what time the 3 o'clock parade is, you already bought them. They don't care what time 3 o'clock is. They want to know how to get there beforehand to get the best experience, which was how to pitch people on TJJ, was basically the time. I remember you just went around everyone in the office just asking the same question, and I remember me getting so nervous. I'm like, he's gonna ask me what time 3 o'clock is, and I don't know what the there's no other option. What could it be? And I freaked out in my head, and then I just said 3 o'clock anyways. I gave up on it. I'm like, okay, 3 o'clock.
I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. I feel like there's a whole new generation of people who are now
you should just go into the OU office and just go around asking all the heads what time's the 3 o'clock parade?
Yeah, I'm
and
sure it's
we have a parade today.
Solidify my standing in the OU. Wow, yeah, we had so many moments. I had so many fun stories. It's so funny you're saying it now, and I completely forgot about that. And that sound that you hear is generations of people rolling their eyes right now.
Yes.
Realize I'm going to go start asking people what time is the 3 o'clock parade again.
First, read Be Our Guest to know what John was talking about, because it's a great book on how to deal with people and make a vibe and energy of an organization. And then start screaming from the rooftops, what time is 3 o'clock parade? Just go walk around New York City. Just yell at people all the time, 3 o'clock. You'll get a lot of people running away from you. Yeah,
that is true. That is true. Credit to Disney. What they were able to do with customer service and creating an experience is something that I tried to replicate.
There was something else you were trying to replicate something else. I remember that Disney did this thing that when my family's actually going to Disneyland in a few weeks. So because of that book and you're back in the day, I got really obsessed about how they do things. And now when I go, I'm like, oh, there it is. Where they do the different, they would make fresh popcorn every morning by the entrance so that you would come in and feel like you're going back to the movies. Right.
Exactly.
And I remember there was one Shabbaton that you tried wanting to do that where people would check in where people would check in, or people like in the dining room, like to have fresh popcorn being made. And I'm like, but they're not going to the movies. But it's yummy and it's tasty, and it would put them in the right mindset to have a good time. I remember you were like so adamant to like make fresh popcorn or have some experience like that with the music playing in different rooms,
yes, the popcorn
or the
and
flooring, or the flooring being different.
Yep.
You know, like you're really trying to like connect. But I think we did a Shabbaton that time in like Great Wolf Lot, like the one with the water park inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't kill that chlorine smell with popcorn. So like it didn't really help. Like it was just like, oh, I guess we're just gonna have chlorine smell.
Wow, these are great. I forgot about this stuff. Listen, it's, we forget sometimes how similar what we do in NCSY is to so many other businesses. Obviously, it's unique. Obviously, it's special and it's powerful, but there's so much to learn from other businesses and other organizations. Always. And wow, it was a lot of fun. Was there a moment? First of all, I appreciate you telling these stories because like this is like deja vu coming back.
I could write a book on NCSY about. No, okay, I'm not writing another book. No, never mind. Sorry, we can write a book.
See,
I'm writing a book right now. Yeah, I'm writing a book right now. It is one of the most intense experiences of my life I've ever had. But if you and I want to write NCSY story books and how to make Shabbaton and all that stuff, I'm more than happy to do that.
All right.
First, let me do this.
Next book okay. after
Deal.
this one. Ellie, was there a moment, because what you do now is very similar. Like I said, I think it's the evolution of some of the things you were doing when you were working for NCSY. Was there a moment, like an aha moment, where you kind of said, this is great, this NCSY experience right now, you're 20 years old, 21, 22. But when you were saying, there might be more to this. I think I'm in the beginning of something. This is a path I want to go on. Did you have a moment like that in NCSY?
I'll be honest. When I was working in NCSY, I wanted to work for NCSY. Like, I wanted to be you. I wanted to take over.
Well, it's good that you found another path.
I wanted to be you and be a regional director or assistant director, whatever it is, work with you and be able to like impact teenagers' lives on a way that it impacted me. And let's throw Torah in there and have Judaism and all those wonderful things as well. Like, let's have this wonderful experience together. I loved it. It was like my energy. It was like, I can't replicate that again. Even though like I love what I do right now, I can never replicate a Shabbaton energy of being tired for like 4 days before and not being able to move like 5 days later. And so much Ricola and so many halls and just, you can't have no voice, but you are just energized and going on empty, but somehow at 100. Like you can't replicate that. And it's funny because I'll be honest, I try to replicate it by speaking. Like going to speak and trying to be a speaker, right. That is what I'm trying to replicate in my mind. In my body, the energy is what I'm trying to replicate. That like impactful, front of the room energy, excitement, connecting with people on a bigger scale. That's why I do it, because that energy, I miss that energy. I miss the Shabbaton. I miss the one-on-one conversations. I miss the impact that you can have. Now, turning that into therapy, I very much impact people on a daily basis, but I don't get that response as much as like an NCSY Shabbaton or a latte and learning. But it was awesome. So for me, it was being able to replicate it, which means impact people. I love human beings. I love dealing with people and impacting them on a soulful level. And that's how I do therapy. Like therapy to me is a human-to-human connection with soul. Now, yes, there are modalities and tricks and tools and things that you can throw in and different 3-letter acronyms, CBT, DBT, ACT, all IFS, all the different things I can throw at you. But in the end, it's me and you talking about your life and how you can be this much better for yourself or for the people in your world. That's what NCSY was about. It's like, okay, you look at yourself and I can be this much better tomorrow or today. I'm going to make a bracha here. I'm going to daven here. I'm going to learn a little bit more here. I'm going to be more kind, respectful. I'm going to be kinder to my parents. I'm going to do this and do that. So yes, it is something that really shaped my perspective on how to deal with human beings. Because I don't think I would have been able to have as much comfort with people. And this gets me a little emotional because it's something that NCSY did change me. I talked about my ADHD. I struggled for years with my social skills. When I was in junior NCSY, I really couldn't I didn't know, I had friends, but like it was very, very hard for me. And when I was in regular NCSY, and when I started working for NCSY and have volunteers and have mentors like yourself who taught me what right mindset, perspective, when you talk, when you don't talk, when you show your energy, when you don't, how you save your energy, all these things that were very important. It taught me the confidence that I could do it. I could be with people and also be confident and respected. I remember you told me something. This is like a really stupid thing that you said. I just love the stupid stories. You said, Ellie, if you want to look like you're doing something on a Shabbaton, just grab a folder and just walk very intensely and no one will bother you. And I was like, oh, that's genius, right? So like, it's just like but all these lessons, all these things taught me that I could help people. It was the environment and story that taught me that I could impact people. How to be able to say no, when to say yes, all those things taught me that I could help people. So it just gave me the passion because I wanted to be a doctor originally before NCSY. Right. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a doctor. And then I realized the experience of medical school from your wonderful wife. Yep. It's not made for everyone. And I was not made for that. I was made to deal with human beings on a spiritual, soulful level. And therapy just seemed that next step.
So much good insight. And it's so funny talking about the story of carry something and walk determinedly.
You said you used to get interrupted because you would run the Shabbaton, John, and you couldn't get to where you actually needed to go, or just get 5 minutes to yourself. So you would hold a folder or a clipboard and walk intensely, and you said that no one would bother you because it looked like you were going to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Walking with purpose and then holding something. Oh, you got to hold something because that way you're bringing something. You're not just going somewhere, but you're bringing something there. And you're bringing something. Don't want to get in the way of that.
The box is too heavy to carry. So
the box. We all struggle with the boundary of the work-life balance, which is something that everything's on our phones, and I was just talking to somebody the other day. You can put up your email away message all you want, but then there's WhatsApp, and then there's text messages, and then there's, Instagram messages, and then there's so many ways for people to get in touch with you now. And the world's become much smaller. The concept of time zones has sort of eroded. And with that, our boundaries have eroded. And that's really tough. First of all, how do you deal with that? But what do you tell people where we all, I think, wear a mask of sometimes of healthy living and of the idea that we can unplug, outside of obviously Shabbos that we have, which is our grand opportunity to create a boundary and unplug. But what do you tell people who struggle with this? Or maybe who don't struggle with this, but are not even aware that they should be thinking about it?
Yeah, it's a really hard conversation because I think it becomes part of our hand. It really becomes a part of us. Letting go of that is my arm is missing. It's a very weird feeling. It's why we have the phantom buzz in our pockets. Our body gets so used to it. One of the big things that I would say, and I'm not the best at this, is I leave my phone in the kitchen when I'm having dinner with my family so that it's not near me. Yes, I have my Apple Watch, and that's annoying on its own to buzz. Also, I turn off all the notifications. I have no push notifications on my phone because from if we're going to get scientific for a second, all the dopamine hit of getting a notification, the buzz makes you go, ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, I got to pick it up. Ooh, I got to take that. Right? And so we take the notifications off of push notifications. You don't get that dopamine hit where you feel you need to scratch that itch right now or else. Right. So you have to actually go into the app to search versus your body feeling forced to open something because of the little bloop or the buzz. But for me, it's about making those separations as much as you can. First thing in the morning, wait 5-10 minutes, which feels like torture. But have your water, have your coffee, go to the bathroom, maybe say hi to your kids if you have kids. But 5-10 minutes delay means that you're not... Someone said this line, I forgot who it was. Someone said a line on a podcast a while ago that said that you become the one who's in control of that information, not the information being controlling you. Because the second you turn your phone on, you look at your emails, you look at news, it's boom, boom, boom. You're now in control. It has now forever changed your day. Versus you opening up what you want, you seeing what you want, and you choosing what you want to see. And the thing is just those boundaries are really hard in this day and age. And I think it's just that discipline and control to not feel like you have to answer, not feel like you need to get back to someone right away. And you don't have to have any of those apps. You don't have to have Instagram if you don't want to. And TikTok might be down anyway soon. So who cares?
Right.
But for me, the hard part is like, and this is something that's like a very real thing, that I feel a slave to social media because of my business. Like because of the podcast and editing and all that stuff. Because of like, if I don't post, maybe I won't get more followers, means less sales for something. Or less numbers to pitch for a sponsor of the podcast, right? All these little things. So it is very hard, but it's really something that if you look at The Anxious Generation, which is a great book by Jonathan Haidt, which I literally had a conversation with someone last night about schools and teenagers and how to help with technology. It really impacts our brain structuring and really impacts like how we handle our stress response, all those things. We will become a calmer, healthier person, even if we just make those 5-10 minute delays or put things aside, even for 30-45 minutes, and actually have a connection with our family. And one of the things that I see often is that when people find out that I keep Shabbos, like either clients or whatever it is, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so lucky." Like I would die to have that. And growing up, I was like, this is the worst thing ever. And like now as an adult, I'm like, oh great, I have a break. And it's hard for other reasons because you can't just throw your kids in front of the TV and, you know, you have to actually be engaged. And sometimes it's very hard when the kids are all over the place and the struggle of that is real. But that separation and that like you can't, I get stressed after Shabbos to turn my phone on to see what I'm going to get bombarded with. Because it's been so nice not being bombarded with emails and, you know, text or whatever it is. So it is a nice break. It is a beautiful thing, but it's very hard.
For sure. For sure. It's good advice, though. Very good advice. Ellie, you've been so kind and generous with your time. I really appreciate everything that you've done for me before, but certainly what you're doing for me today. Let me ask you one more quick question before we finish up here. What's coming up next? You know, you've got the book, you've got the podcast. Like, where do you see all this going?
Ideally in dream world. I hope the book becomes a bestseller and I make millions and millions of dollars, which would be great. NCSY, don't worry, I'll give you some. Or just you, John. I'll give you just you, so that you can open your, you know, you can do a lot of things for this amazing podcast and stuff like that. But no, I hope the book opens up opportunities of being at conferences, speaking and impacting the world in a bigger way in mental health and being just real about what it means to be human and the honesty of the struggle and make it digestible. With the podcast, I hope it gets sponsored, you know, and blows up. So just, you know, top 100 would be nice.
Right.
But things like that would be exciting. And just the goal for me really is that this stuff takes off so I can spend more time with my family and have more fun experiences and do fun things in the world and be able to give back. But right now, the goal is to keep writing and finishing the book. And hopefully I don't have to edit too much. But the fun and exciting thing is that it's the the expectation versus the reality. Like right now, my expectation is that this book is going to be like huge. Great. The reality is I have no idea. And the reality is that the only success that might come from this is the fact that I published a book. And
which is a pretty big success,
which is amazing.
by the way.
Right, which is amazing. Yeah. So sometimes it's
Yeah.
about accepting that reality that could be versus the ideal or the expectation of something bigger. I'm going to tie in a line you used to always say. See, I remember things. My memory's not as bad as I thought it was. That if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you're going to hit the stars. Right? So it's just about aiming, and that's for anyone. Like shoot for your goals and dreams, and you might miss them, but you're still going to be somewhere better than you were before. So we'll see what happens with it, you know?
Amazing.
You should write a book.
Amazing.
With all these
I should write a
saying.
book. I have a lot of stories to tell. I'm not sure everybody wants to hear those stories,
What
but I have a lot of stories to
3 o'clock
tell.
parade will be the title.
Yeah. Yeah, part 2. We'll see if Disney is interested in bringing me aboard. Amazing. Ellie, thank you so much. This has been absolutely a blast. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we will talk to you again soon.
Okay, all the best. Thanks for having me.
All right. This has been NCSY Pulse with John Ackerman and Ellie Weinstein. You can follow us on Instagram at NCSY Pulse. You can find all of our shows on YouTube now at NCSY Pulse. And we'll talk to you soon.